The collapse of remote work is coming, and it's going to have a devastating negative impact on both the U.S. economy and the U.S. housing market, specifically in certain cities that get excess demand from remote workers. Those are ones that when the layoffs occur, when the outsourcing of remote work jobs occur, these cities are going to be in big, big trouble. We're going to start things off with a map like we usually do on this channel, and what we're looking at here on this map of America are the 20 remote work havens. These are the cities, the metro areas in America with the highest percentage of remote workers based on data from LinkedIn. And as I said a second ago, I think some of these cities could have the biggest negative impact to their local economies and their local housing markets from the inevitable downfall of remote work in America. But before we get into that detailed data by city and evaluating specific housing markets, we need to start by asking the simple question: what's the state of remote work today in America in the fall and winter of 2021? What percentage of new job postings are remote in nature, and how does this compare to pre-pandemic levels, and how do we think this is going to change over time? So we're now looking at a LinkedIn article from September 8th titled America's New Remote Work Havens. And in this article, they discuss the transition and increase of remote work in America over the last year. They go on to say, for starters, remote work opportunities as of August 2021 were capturing over 30% of all applications to paid U.S. job postings on LinkedIn. This is more than triple the rate of 9.8% in August 2020, and it's nearly, get this folks, tenfold increase from remote work's mere 3% share in January 2020 before COVID hit. Wow, everyone. So we have a massive 10x increase in the amount of remote work job applications being submitted on LinkedIn. Before the pandemic, it was only 3% of all job applications were going to remote work positions. Now it's over 30%. Nearly 1 in 3 jobs workers are applying to are remote in nature. Why is that the case? Well, it turns out many employees love the flexibility that remote work offers. A recent study from McKinsey showed that nearly 2/3 of U.S. workers prefer either a hybrid work from home model or a full-time work from home model. And it makes sense. Remote work cuts down on commuting. It cuts down on wasted time. You get to spend more time with your family. And I think that at some level, remote work is most definitely here to stay. However, there's a big problem, and that's that while employees love remote work, managers and supervisors and employers don't seem to like it so much. This July 2021 article from Forbes, which I'm going to have a link to in the description, shows just how much supervisors and managers don't seem to like remote work. It quotes a study from the Society for Human Resource Management, which shows that nearly 70% of managers reply the remote workers are, get this, more easily replaceable than on-site workers. 72% said they would prefer all of their subordinates to be working in the office. And if we go down further in this article, we can see that, get this, 42% of supervisors say they have sometimes forgotten about remote workers when assigning tasks. And so we have managers and supervisors very clearly saying, we don't really like remote work. We have a harder time corralling our team. It's harder to lead our team. I forget about remote workers when assigning tasks sometimes. Managers think it's better for workers to be in the office, but the workers think it's better for them to be at home. And thus far, employees and workers are winning this tug of war. With over 10 million job openings in America right now and a big labor shortage and big wage increases, employees and workers have all of the bargaining power right now, and basically businesses are tripping over themselves doing whatever they need to do to make their employees happy. And that's why we're seeing remote work flourish right now in the fall of 2021. But we need to really ask ourselves, what's the situation going to be in a year from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now? With managers and supervisors saying that remote workers are replaceable and that they forget about remote workers and that they would rather people be in the office, what's the next logical step to this evolution of remote work? Well, I'm going to show you, everyone. Take a look at this. So we have a hypothetical company here in San Francisco. It's a tech company, and as many tech companies are, they're headquartered in San Francisco. And over the last year, they've said to their employees, you know what, you have the right now to work from home if you want to. And as a result, many of their employees made the choice in this hypothetical example to move to Raleigh, North Carolina. Many move to Raleigh because it's a city that's much more affordable than San Francisco. You can buy a house. Maybe some people would be closer to friends or family if they did that, so they moved to Raleigh. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this situation. Maybe some of you actually made this same move, leaving a big city like San Francisco, LA, New York, Chicago, and moving to a warmer climate, a more affordable city where you can buy a home, maybe be closer to friends or family. And in the short term, this is great. However, we need to think about what this tech company in San Francisco is going to do now that they're realizing that many of the positions at their company, many of the jobs can be performed 100% remote? Well, the next logical step for this job, which was geographically outsourced from San Francisco to Raleigh. Are you guys enjoying the data and the insights in this video? If the answer is yes, just make sure to smash that like button. That's the best way you can show your appreciation and help support me on this channel, is hitting that like button. Is to then be outsourced to India. To India, that's right, because if employees right now are telling their companies that the job can be done 100% remote, why wouldn't the company then take the next logical step and say, all right, let's go from Raleigh to India, and I can hire maybe a software developer in India, an engineer, a data analyst for half the salary or hourly wage to do the same thing. And this is called outsourcing, right? And I'm sure many of you are familiar with outsourcing based on what happened to America's manufacturing industry in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Many people working in the Midwest in big steel factories or car factories lost their jobs because those jobs got outsourced to places like China and India because workers there could do those jobs at a lower hourly rate. That had a devastating impact on the local societies, economies, and housing markets throughout much of the Midwest and Northeast. And now we're going to see the same exact thing play out this time with remote work. It's just that the geographic locations are going to be a bit different. And so what you're looking at on this graph are the top 20 metros in America with the highest percentage of workers who work remote. And we can see that Bend, Oregon is number one. 42% of all the job applications in Bend, Oregon went to a remote work position. Bend, situated just between San Francisco and Seattle, is kind of the perfect location for a tech remote city. It's also the perfect location to get crushed when a lot of these jobs get outsourced, as is a place like Asheville, North Carolina, the number 2 remote work city. Or Johnson City, Tennessee, which is right next to Asheville, North Carolina. Northport, Sarasota, Florida. Pensacola, Florida. Fort Myers, Florida. Tampa, Florida. Jacksonville, Florida. Orlando, Florida. Are you getting the picture? Lots of Florida on this list, as well as Portland, Maine. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Charleston, South Carolina. Omaha, Nebraska. Louisville, Kentucky. Las Vegas. Salt Lake City. These are all metro areas with a disproportionate amount of demand in their economy and housing market coming from remote workers. What that means is there's a large quantity of people in these cities who don't actually have any fundamental career or job tie to that city. Many people have moved to these cities over the last couple of years with no social network, no professional network, often no friends or family. They just picked these places because they wanted to live there and their job offered them the ability to live there. But all of a sudden, when their job in either IT, engineering, web development, medical billing, when their job then gets outsourced to India for a cheaper rate, what are these people going to do? I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to put their house up for sale immediately. They're going to move to a city where they have better career prospects. They're going to move to a city where they're closer to friends and family and can stay with their friends and family when they're jobless. And that's going to cause big declines in all of these housing markets with heavy ties to remote work. And the way I see this, everyone, is that this is not an if this is going to happen. It's a when. This is inevitable because now with corporate America having to deal with a record amount of people quitting jobs, surging wages, and then managers and supervisors, as we saw in the beginning, who feel like they have a difficult time tracking remote workers, the result is going to be U.S. corporations who are at their heart a profit maximizing machine. The result is going to be cutting costs, cutting expenses, and laying off a huge amount of remote workers. And what I don't think most people understand is just how easy it is right now to hire people from across the globe to do jobs in web development, accounting, data analysis. It's so easy thanks to websites like Upwork.com and Fiverr.com that help basically manage the process of hiring a freelancer or hiring a consultant to do something for you. You can now go into India and hire someone to do the same thing in the US for 3 times cheaper. So for instance, I typed in web development on Upwork.com looking for someone to help maybe with web development or mobile apps, and Deepak in India popped up. He charges $25 an hour. His skills include PHP, MySQL, JavaScript, data scraping. He has 100% job success on Upwork, which helps rank all of the people you can hire. He's top rated, and I can hire him for $25 an hour. What about if I want data analysis, someone to help me scrape data, analyze data? We have here Asanka in Sri Lanka charges $7 an hour for data analysis, Microsoft Excel data entry, IBM SPS. He's earned over $6,000 on this site with a 90% job success rate. Or if I need help in accounting, I can go to Mohammed out of Lebanon. He charges $16 an hour and has earned over $20,000 here on Upwork with a 94% job success rating. He's a top-rated freelancer freelancer on Upwork. And what does this mean in the long run? Well, it means declining wages for American workers as now we're opened up to a global market for labor. You saw $7 an hour for some of those freelancers, $15 an hour. It's going to mean declining wages. It's going to mean job losses. Lots of people will lose their jobs and get laid off from their remote work positions in America. And it's also going to lead to a big housing crash in certain parts of this country in cities and markets that rely heavily on remote work demand for their economy and for their housing market support. As we saw earlier, places like Bend, Oregon, Asheville, North Carolina, Northport, Florida, Portland, Maine, Charleston, South Carolina, Tampa, Omaha, Nebraska, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City. These are cities that are right now benefiting from this surge in remote work in America, but then in the intermediate to long term, I think are going to struggle severely when the inevitable collapse of the US remote work industry occurs. Now, it's worth saying that I don't think this is going to impact every remote worker in America, and in particular, people who have roles that are client-facing, such as sales. It's going to be very difficult to outsource a sales job, just as it's going to be very difficult to outsource a job in a creative industry or aspect of, say, tech. If you're someone who's a product manager and leading a team of designers, it could be harder to outsource that position. But yet, if you're someone in an industry where the skills are commoditized, like accounting, like medical billing, like IT, those are at great risk for the next outsourcing that's going to occur over the next 5 to 10 years in America. As far as timeline on this, when is this going to happen? I don't think it's going to happen overnight. It's not going to be like in the next 3 or 6 months we'll see all of these mass layoffs occur due to outsourcing, but slowly but surely, incrementally over the next year, 2 years, 5 years, we're going to see more and more US corporations downsize their workforce in favor of the flexibility and cheaper costs associated with freelance remote work. If you guys enjoyed this video, just make sure to smash that like button. I endeavor to bring you insights and predictions on this channel that not a lot of other people are covering, so if you appreciate that, make sure to hit the like button. Moreover, if you're someone who is a data nerd and you want even more data on the US housing market in your city in particular, hit the join button below, become a channel sponsor member. The cost is $5 a month and you get access to exclusive data available only to channel sponsor members. Particularly, you get a monthly newsletter, which you can see here on the screen, with data across the entire US housing market, jobs, wages, home prices, building permits, all the things you need to know to decide whether your market, your city is a good place to buy or whether you should wait. If you want access to that newsletter, hit the join button below, become a sponsor member. All right, everyone, until next time, this is Nick from Reventure Consulting signing off.